Thank you. Good morning, everybody. How are you? Now, I have a lot to cover, and I've had coffee, so this is going to be a fun ride. Before we get into it, I want to tell you a little bit about myself. So I'm a good Queensland girl. I actually was born down on the Gold Coast and grew up in Mudgeeraba and went to Nerang High School, so I'm an orangutan for anybody who knows that phrase. And it could just be me, because maybe they're not talking like that cool anymore. So yeah, public school girl from here, parents owned a fruit and veggie shop. First in my family to finish school, first in my family to go to university, first in my family to pretty much do everything, which was a really great place to be because I had zero advice and zero help to kind of guide my way and navigate my way through that system. So everything that you're trying to do in helping people, thank you. Because I needed that, and I didn't really have that. I had really well-intentioned people around me who were very supportive in everything I said. Oh, maybe I'll do this, maybe I'll do this. Yeah, you can do anything. You can do anything. You're smart. Go for it, girl. Which was lovely and supportive, but not exactly helpful in navigating my way through the world. So I'm really fortunate that I landed myself, and it's a very long story, find me one day and I'll tell you about it, but landed myself at Google 11 years ago in the Sydney office on the engineering team, particularly because I didn't do an engineering degree, which is again another story, despite doing Maths 1, Maths 2, Physics, Chemistry, and all the STEM subjects at school. So I work in the engineering office in Sydney. It's pretty awesome. We do some really crazy stuff, and one of the things I look after is K-12 computer science engagement. I also do our university research engagement, which is all around artificial intelligence and machine learning and just think Elon Musk futurist kind of crazy, that's not possible stuff. It's really fun. And work with tech startups and entrepreneurship, and I'm also on the board here at Fishburne as in the co-working space. But what I want to talk to you today, and this is really going to be light and fast, so hopefully you all had your coffee and you're with me, is about the careers of the future and what we're thinking about as the world of work. So this is not just about Google, this is about every single career. So let's dive in. The changing nature of careers. There's a lot of fear out there right now that robots are going to take over the world, nobody's going to have any jobs, and we don't know what to do. Well, it's kind of a little bit of fear-mongering. Yes, things are changing, but the world of work has always been changing, and I want to demonstrate this to you in 3 easy slides. This is a career that no longer exists anymore. This is a career that used to exist around the turn of the Industrial Revolution, when we started getting into automation and factories, and for the first time, well, maybe not the first time, but first getting into it. And this is a great career. If you had a business card for this career, it would have said that you were a knocker-upper. So a knocker-upper, maybe a little bit different to the way we say a knocker-upper in Australia, or what we think about it, was somebody that went round and literally rapped on windows and doors to wake people up to go to their jobs in the factories and to go to their jobs. And this job disappeared because people invented alarm clocks, but they invented alarm clocks not just beautiful figurines that were worth, hundreds of dollars or pounds or whatever the currency was back then, but they actually invented alarm clocks and made them at scale so that they're affordable for people. So these people had no job anymore. But guess what jobs emerged from that? Alarm clock salespeople, alarm clock builders, alarm clock repair people, because people didn't throw things away. So jobs have always been changing. Let me give you another example, because it's not just one. Okay, it's a bit hard to see because photography not so great back then, and lighting, and also in here. Gas lamp-lighters. Electricity wiped out a whole career set, but look at how many more people are employed in electricity and in engineering. And if you think about the future of sustainable electricity and provision of services. So another job that went away. One that's maybe not so sad is before we had automation in bowling alleys, they often employed young boys who probably should have been in school because they look pretty young here, and I think they should have been in school, to actually reset pins in the bowling alley. So the changing nature of work isn't something to be feared so much as to be navigated. And to go, well, if work is always going to change and careers are always going to disappear, what are the ones that are emerging, and how do I prepare myself and how do I prepare my students for those careers and position them so that I can explore that? So let's talk about it, because I think that it's really important in Australia to think about this as our economic base is changing, because there are some real keys to innovation and growth. So 65% of all economic growth between 1965 to 2005 in Australia came down to STEM innovations. in industry, in manufacturing, in mining, in agriculture, in every single area. 75% of the fastest growing occupations require STEM skills, and we're going to dig into this in the specifics in a moment because they don't require all of the STEM skills, but a large part of them. If tech startups in Australia became just 4% of GDP by 2030, it would be $109 billion to the economy and over 500,000 jobs if we can grow the tech startup ecosystem in this country. That is not an insignificant amount of money. That's taking it from something very small to just something a little bit bigger. And there would be over 1 million new jobs created in computer science related fields just for this. So let's talk a little bit about the careers of the day. I work on the engineering team. I like data, I like numbers, it's good. I like to have proof points that are not just emotions and emotive stories, but I like to be able to say stuff and say this is real data and this is what we care about. So what I really think is really interesting is we have the ability in this connected world that we live in today to look at really large data sets. And LinkedIn, everyone's familiar with LinkedIn, right? It's one of the world's largest platforms for professionals. It's not a social networking site, I would say it's a business networking site where you can put yourself on there and have your resume and connect with people for business. They have something like, I think it's something like 300 or 400 million people on the site, so a significant amount of data. In 2008, what they did was they looked at all of the jobs that didn't exist 5 years previously and said, what are the emerging jobs of the future? And they put together this list. And what was really, sorry, it wasn't in 2008, the careers that didn't exist in 2008, and they did this in 2014, they put this out. And the top 10 careers that didn't exist in 2008, they found were iOS developer, Android developer, Zumba instructor, social media intern, data scientist, UI UX designer, big data architect, beach body coach, cloud service specialist and digital marketing specialist. Now the thing about this that's really, really interesting, I think most people would look at a list like that right now and they wouldn't be that surprised about it. But what you should be surprised about is that number 1 and that number 2 up there. Because in 2008, there were no such thing as iOS developers and Android developers because there were no iPhones and there were no Android phones. At best, you had a BlackBerry in your pocket. And at best, you could do some email on there and maybe get a map to load. So technology's advances and technology in hardware and software as it comes out actually drives the creation of new careers, and we cannot necessarily have names for all of those things or know what they are going to be. It's really, really interesting. The second point about this data, which I think is really fascinating, is that every single one of them on there, maybe apart from number 3 and number 8, although if you're advertising us on LinkedIn, I think there's a connection there. Every single other career there is not a particular vertical. It doesn't identify as finance, travel, education, agriculture, or anything like that. They are skills, they are opportunities, and they are roles that are cross-disciplinary in nature and can work in any field. So we need to start thinking about how we talk about careers and what we talk about the journey of education in a very different way and not quite so linear. In 2016, and again, I love this, LinkedIn does this every year in around January, so if you go onto their website and you search LinkedIn careers data and stuff like that, it's really, really interesting, right? Because this is telling you what people are doing. So in 2016, they were looking at their top skills, and what they were looking at was all the hiring that occurred across the platform in the previous year, and they were saying what are the skills that were most in demand that people were looking for, and this is what they were looking for: cloud and distributed computing, statistical analysis and data mining, web architecture and development framework, middleware and integration software, user interface design, network and information security, mobile development, data presentation, SEO, SEM, marketing, storage systems and management. Not one of those things is the name of a degree, a TAFE course, or an actual job role. And they're also, again, not in any particular industry. So if I said I'm passionate about travel and I want to work in travel, I can go get a skill in that and I can actually work in the travel industry. And I think it's really important that we need to sort of look at these data sets and look at these skills and start thinking about how do I help people think about getting these skills and having transferable careers. Because the data tells us that the kids that are graduating today, or the students that are graduating today from high school, are going to have at least 8 different career shifts in their lifetime and 20 to 30 jobs. So they're not going to have a job for life. They're not going to have a linear career and just do law and become a lawyer, or accounting and become an accountant. They are going to have a skill set that actually enables them to move across the world of work much more significantly. Is Australia ready? All of those things require computer science skills or some level of higher digital skills. Not really, because between 2001 and 2013 we had a 36% decline in studying computer science. And this is not about producing software engineers alone, this is about the fact that we do not have technologists capable enough to go into the travel industry and build the software that we need to actually fly or into the aviation industry and build enough software that is safe to fly our planes. This is in every single industry. There are 39.4% year-on-year increase in developer programmer 457 visas. This was in 2014. These are visas that are still on the 457 list. I know there's been a lot that have been taken off. Developer programmer is one that we are still in really strong shortage of. In the US though, they've been realising this for quite a while. When they went through the GFC, so much of their traditional job base went away. And they've been talking about the fact that tech skills are the skills of the future and every career is a tech career. And so they've actually seen a 29% growth in computer science enrolments. So in Australia, we've got a bit of work to do, and we really have to educate people that it is about incorporating technology into whatever you're planning to do in the future. It is not a nice to have, it is non-optional for you and for your students in the future. So let's talk about what that looks like, because I really want to make sure that you understand that this is not about computer scientists and software engineers for Google. We will get those people, we work really closely with the universities, we have internship programs, they will come to us, we will love them, it will be amazing. We have a great experience. I've been there 11 years, I keep trying to say I'm going to leave one day and they keep giving me interesting work to do. But as I said, students graduating today are going to transition across many careers and many jobs. And careers and jobs are two different things, right? And what we need to do is have them thinking about what do those possible careers look like. So I want to talk about CS plus X, which is computer science plus X, where X is your passion, the problem that you're trying to solve, or any other discipline. And there's a real reason that we have it CS plus X and not X plus CS, and that's because right now in Australia we don't have enough people focused on the CS. We have a lot of people focused on the X, but not a lot of people focused on the CS. And so we really need to reverse that algorithm for right now, and for at least for a few years put a priority on computer science and say it is number one. We've got to get everybody upskilled in this. So what does CS plus X look like? Well, CS plus art look like this. This is Danielle Feinberg. So she is the director of lighting at Pixar Animations. How many people like Pixar Animations, like animated films and, you know, all that really? So, confession, I don't watch those films, but Marie on my team outside does, and a lot of my friends do, and they love them. I think the thing about Pixar Animations and what they do that's really incredible, right, is they have the power to make an animated movie that makes you feel real human emotion, that makes you respond in fear and delight. You even cry at this stuff. I mean, not me, because I cry at other movies, but you know, you cry at this stuff and you have an emotive response. And somebody like Danielle, her job is fascinating because she merges and blends that traditional sort of art of theatre and performance and lighting and set and thinking about the visuals of stuff that creates that human response and computer science. And instead of lighting a set traditionally, she writes millions and millions of lines of code to push pixels around on the screen to have that same emotive response. This is CS plus art. Oh, I love this one. This is CS plus medicine. Does anybody know what this is? It's a contact lens. It's actually a smart contact lens. It's called Project Iris. They came out of Google X Labs many years ago. And what it does is it blends the world of tech and where the future of technology is coming with teeny tiny transistors and chips that are no more than a speck in your eye, and the ability to actually send data in real time to your smartphone. And the thing about something like this is if you suffer from diabetes, or if you know someone that does, you might be aware that diabetes is one of the biggest challenges for us worldwide in terms of healthcare and costs to the health system, because if you can't manage your diabetes well, the other sort of challenges and problems that can happen for you in a health-related way can be really devastating for you personally and just in terms of how you, your quality of life. So what this does is it enables you to wear a contact lens and in real time monitor your blood glucose levels from the saline in your eye and send alerts to your smartphone. So for somebody that's living with diabetes, that means I'm not going to get too high or too low and find out about it at that point where I really need an intervention, be it food or insulin or whatever that prescribed process is for me and my diabetes. It means that actually it can send me a much narrower range of when alerts come to me and tell me how to monitor my health better. And if I can better monitor my health, I may be able to avoid some of the complications that come from not really being able to manage my diabetes well. This only comes when you have enough understanding of what is coming down the pathway in technology and what you're capable of in that space, and you have enough understanding of biology and medicine and the field of diabetes. You don't get it if you're only great in medicine or you're only great in technology. You've got to blur those two fields together. Let me give you one more example. So this is obviously a photo of a prototype of our first, one of our first self-driving cars. I like to think it looks a little bit like a koala with the nose and the eyes and really cute. Everybody looks at me strange in the US when I say that, but I kind of look at it and I see a little face. I think it's really sweet. The thing about self-driving cars, right, these are potentially solving a really big problem in the world. So there's over 1 million people die on the roads every year, according to the World Health Organization, and the number one cause of accidents is not the car, it's people. Basically, we think we're awesome at driving and we suck. We do things dangerously, we speed, we drive intoxicated or with drugs. I don't, but people do. We drive outside the capabilities of the roads or the environment we're in, and people die. There's a huge human consequence to that. But I think technology like this also solves a really other interesting human problem. My parents still live down on the Gold Coast. They're still in the house that I grew up in, out on acreage, and it's lovely. But they are reaching of an age where mobility is starting to affect them. And it's starting to be a little harder to get around. And a couple of hip replacement surgeries later, it's really tricky for Dad. And they're also starting to get to a point where driving in the night time is not so great for them. They don't love it. It's hard to see. Imagine, though, they're healthy, they can stay in their own home. What would happen if there was a car, they need to go down to get some milk or something, and they need to go somewhere in the middle of the night, they could call up a self-driving car to get there and stay in their home longer and be more happy and have better quality of life. My niece was born 16 weeks premature, and she only has vision in one eye. Now, while she can legally drive, and we're very fortunate that she has enough vision to be able to do that, she also doesn't like driving when the conditions are bad because it's just a little bit too uncomfortable and the risk is too high for her. So that reduces her ability to actually engage and do things at times, especially if you have a week of really bad weather and storms. This is the sort of thing that can also really transform and change somebody's life. But this only comes about when you actually have people that understand that the challenge of self-driving cars is a computational program. It's not a hardware program, and you don't start with the car. You start with pattern recognition on the roads and things like that. So this is a really interesting blend between technology and computer science, but also transport and vehicle. And there's a huge social implication there too, and there's policy implications. And so it's a really nice blurred field. This is another really interesting one that actually I think is fun, and this is CS plus fashion and sport and movement. So this is a really boring photo, but it's also a really cool photo. This is a photo of Project Jacquard, which we launched at Google I/O, which is that big developer conference in San Francisco, probably about 3 years ago now. And what we've figured out to do is how you can weave in a commercial loom into just normal fabric the ability and the sensors to do haptics and touch and technology, so that we're actually building clothing that you can interact with. Now you might say, well, that's interesting, but why? Lots of reasons why. If you're doing some sort of fields of work and sport and other things, you might not be able to carry technology on your body, or you might not be able to interact with things. This could be a way of doing that. It could be really interesting for athletes to get data back about muscles and developments and sort of, what you're doing, what could be possible. The thing about this is we don't know what the careers of the future in this space are going to be, but there is technology capable there now, and so it's up to us to kind of create and inspire students to start thinking about, could you be the one that creates the career of tomorrow that has a name that I don't even know yet? The thing about this statement, that technology as a separate skill will fade as it becomes ubiquitous in every career, It's something I really do think is a truth that we will work towards, but until we build technically capable graduates, both from a school, from TAFE and from university, we are doing, I think until we do that, we are going to have to see a prioritisation on tech that we need to continually do and build. We've got a great start in the digital technologies curriculum nationally, so students from primary school are starting to learn computational thinking and computer science, but we need to go one step further and we need to start talking about how does that integrate with all of these other disciplinary areas, and what does that mean for the problem solving of tomorrow? Because our smart problem solvers and our creative thinkers are people that are going to not think in disciplinary silos. They're going to think across those boundaries, and they're going to be focused on the challenge and see it as an opportunity, and in that build out new jobs. So eventually I think what we will start seeing is the X plus CS, where people are able to focus on their passion or the other discipline or the problem that they're trying to solve, and CS will just be an underlying platform and enabler in their skill set for them to go out and do it, and they'll be designing the careers, their future careers. So I want to make you aware of just one resource that we have also partnered with out there to kind of get a flavour for what this is, because I think it's great to be able to talk to students about, you know, these are the courses you can do and these are the things that you can do. I think one of the things we need to do is have students aware of people. Role models are incredibly important. For me, I didn't have any. And so it was really hard for me to envisage what the opportunity was for me and who I might look like, because I just couldn't see those people in my world. So we have partnered with Refraction Media, and this resource is all online, to create careers with, well, they've got careers with STEM, but careers with code. And basically on that website you will just find probably a couple of hundred people who are profiled with these CS plus X careers, doing things with job descriptions and job titles that you may not have ever heard of before. And the goal is to kind of really kind of get us to think outside of the box of how we traditionally talk about the world of work, and start thinking about opportunity and reframing the conversation with our students to, you know, what is it that you love and what is it that you want to work in for the rest of your life? What are the big challenges that you see, and how can you think about that for the future? So that was a lot of information lightning fast, but I did want to kind of like share that with you all. That's how we think about it, that's how we talk about it, and that's how we're looking about it. That's how we hire people at Google. Do we have any time for a couple of questions? But I'm happy to take questions. Does anybody have any questions? Because that was a lot of information. Yeah.
Did you have an opinion on how far away the driverless car is for us as a society, or does it exist in some parts? So
if you go and if you look in your favourite search engine, which is hopefully ours, and have a look, there's some real progress in this. So I know in Australia, and not with us, but I know in Australia both Perth has been talking with companies about driverless buses. Over there. I think Adelaide has been doing some really interesting work in smart cities and engagement. There are already a lot of driverless technology, typically in mines and out in sort of fields like that. I think we're going to see more testing starting to happen in certain cities around the world, and it'll be a slow rollout, right? We've got to do this with caution, but it is fast coming. The technology is surprisingly not that new. Car manufacturers have been working on driverless technology for years, and they gave us assisted reverse park, which is great, but after 20 years of work, I would have liked a little bit more. So, you know, taking it out of there and having companies like Google and others sort of really rethink it and reframe it, not from the car, but reframe it as how do I solve the problem of a driverless system and build a car around it, has actually helped leapfrog that work forward just, I would say 20, 30 years ahead of where it would have been had we gone down a traditional path. So it'll be really interesting to see, but I'd say we'll start seeing them in cities around the world. We've already got driverless cars in San Francisco and in California. Now legally they are required to have somebody sitting there ready to take control at any point in time. So there's thousands and thousands and thousands of hours logged. And all of that is helping us get closer to that point of being able to do this really well. And I look forward to being able to do something else other than drive a car. Yeah.
I love all of this concept, and I believe it has to happen. And I was always thinking it was sort of more around collaboration. And the question it raises for me is just like, you know, people who have that passion in a particular industry, say fashion, often their interests are not in things like coding or STEM. Is that a challenge that you sort of considered? Or?
I think it is a challenge, but I think the challenge is because of how we stereotype and talk about STEM, and particularly computer science. When you take somebody in fashion and art and you take them through a creative design process that has a little bit more technology under the hood, they love it. It's incredibly creative. We tend to think as coders or something, I don't know why, but we think of coding and software as a non-creative thing. It's incredibly creative. And so it's about reframing how we have the conversation and talking to them about the enabling component of it. One of the really interesting things is people that have fashion as a real passion is looking at interactive wearables, right? If you really want to design the clothing of the future, there's going to be an interactive component in that. So it's almost like just as you have to learn skills of pattern design and cutting, and you know, there are some technical components to actually fashion. This is just a new technical component. I had a great meeting the other day with a professor that's just moved back from Carnegie Mellon to university to UNSW, and he is a designer and he does design thinking, but he's in the School of Fine Arts, COFA. And you know, the conversation we were having was, we have these people that are being taught design, but they're missing the technical skills. And you know, in the US, this blending of these disciplines and degrees is so much further forward at some universities. And it's really, when you introduce people to them and you show them what is possible in their field of interest with technology, that actually drives, I think, opens up the opportunity for them to go, okay, I really want that skill because I want to be able to do that thing. Some people love computer science for computer science sake. We're already getting them. It's about how do we get people to see what the opportunity is in what they want to do with the thing that they're passionate about, so that they're wanting to invest to get that skill.
So it's sort of like incorporating those skills into...
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think, you know, for me, the biggest problem that I see is that we always talk about things in disciplinary silos. Work doesn't work that way. I might be on the engineering team, but I was in a policy meeting with government yesterday, and I did media the other day, and I wrote a press release for someone, and you know, all of those skills don't necessarily come from that same place. And when I look at what skills are underlying and what you should be getting through every discipline, you should be getting creative thinking, you should be getting that, you know, ability to deconstruct problems and to problem solve. You should be able to get that collaboration piece. Yes, we want people to have the technical skills in each discipline as well, but some of that underlying stuff, that does go cross-disciplinary. So we have to get to a point where we start talking about that, because that's how well the world of work works. And I think when we think about disciplinary silos so much, we do ourselves a disservice and we shut down creativity because we put barriers between things. I'm very, very passionate about that topic, if you couldn't tell. I like solving problems. It really annoys me when we say we're not doing that because we're mathematicians or we're this. I'm like, well, just, you've got skills, come together, let's solve it. Awesome. Thank you for your time. Enjoy the rest of your day. It's awesome.